This is Pinyin in a Week. I'm your instructor, Betty, with YesLingo.com. Lesson 7, Pinyin Rules and Review. This is the last lesson in this series, and you've already learned about the initial, the final, and the tone. Today we're going to talk about some special rules of Pinyin for writing and for pronunciation. And at the end, we're going to do a review of everything that we've learned in this course. When we're speaking, sometimes the tone of a word changes depending on its context. The first rule is regarding the syllable E, which means one. Now, as you can imagine, E is used quite often anytime we want to talk about one thing or, one pair of shoes. Any type of noun in addition to one, we'll have to use this syllable, E, so it's a very commonly used one. Now, normally when it's pronounced, E takes the first tone. However, E will take the second tone when directly preceding a fourth tone. So something that was originally 1-4 becomes 2-4. Let's take a look at this example. This originally is 一下, the first tone and the fourth tone. But as you can see, because the first tone directly precedes the fourth tone, this one gets changed into the second tone. So it goes from 一下 to 一下, 一下. Do you see how this kind of flows a lot better than 一下? 一下. Now, E's pronunciation will change if it precedes a second tone word as well. So if you have something that's like E followed by a second tone, such as 一群, then the first tone, E, will turn into the fourth tone. So instead of 一群, you get 一群, 一群. See that? When you get the first tone and second tone together, it turns into the fourth tone and second tone. 一群. Now, when E precedes the third tone, the E will also take on the fourth tone. So instead of 一把, it turns into 一把, 一把. And you'll notice that the main reason for these change of tones is because the latter, the way it's read after it changes, flows a lot more smoothly than the first one. Okay, so now that you know these rules, let's do some of these practice together. 一个. So this is first tone and fourth tone, so you know that E will change into the second tone. It turns into 一个, 一个. 一条. It's first tone and second tone, so the first tone will change into a fourth tone and becomes 一条, 一条. For the final one, it's 一百, 一百. So when it's first tone and third tone, the first tone will turn into this fourth tone and it becomes 一百, 一百. Let's read the second column one more time together. 一个, 一条, 一百. Understand? So those are the rules that you need to keep in mind for change of tone with the word E. Now we're going to learn the change of tone rule for 不, this word here, 不, and this means not. Like E, its tone changes depending on the other tones that it's paired with. So 不 normally takes the fourth tone, but when it directly precedes another fourth tone, as in this case, then the 不 will take on the second tone. Let's read this together. 不信 will turn into 不信, 不信. See how that flows a lot better than 不信? Okay, so two fourth tones together with 不 as the first word will change into the second tone for 不. Let's take a look at another example here. 不论,不论 will turn into 不论,不论. And then finally, 不去,不去 will turn into 不去,不去. And experience it for yourself. Try it. Try reading the two fourth tones together and see how weird it sounds. See how it doesn't really flow off your tongue. And then try reading it with the second and fourth tone. And you'll realize that that undulation kind of really makes it flow a lot better. So let's read the second column together for practice. 不信,不论,不去. Good job. All right, we're moving on to our third and final Pinyin rule, and it is related to the third tone. The first two rules we mentioned were related to particular words, like yi and bu. Well, the next rule is going to be about the specific tone, which is the third tone, the one that goes down and then up. When two third tone syllables are directly adjacent to each other, the first third tone will turn into a second tone. Let's look at this example. 美女. These are two third tone syllables directly next to each other. And when you were saying it, you probably realized that, it sounds kind of funky. Sounds kind of weird and doesn't really flow out of my mouth very well. 美女. So instead, we change the first third tone into a second tone and becomes 美女,美女. Just like in the case that we learned very early on, 你好. Because these are both third tone syllables, it actually turns into 你好,你好. Understand? Now, this rule actually applies to an entire sequence of words. For example, 两本书 means two books. And it still follows this rule even though the sequence contains more than just two words. See, 两本 are both third tone words. So it changes to second tone, third tone, and becomes 两本书. 两本书. This means two books. So what if we had an especially long sequence of third tones? Well, we'll typically split the phrase into smaller parts separated by a brief pause, and then apply this rule to each small part. So let's look at this example sentence here. 我想买两本书. Did you just read it along with me? If you did, you'll realize that all of these third tones adjacent to each other gets a little bit tedious. Essentially, the sentence can be split right down the middle. 我想买 means I want to buy. 两本书 means two books. So together, the entire sentence reads, I want to buy two books. So we apply the change of tone rule to each separate section. The first part, 我想买. Well, it turns into 我想买. And then the second part, 两本书 becomes 两本书. So the entire sentence will read, 我想买两本书. That sounds much better than reading the entire thing with third tones. This might all seem a little bit confusing right now, but don't worry. The more you practice, the clearer all of this is going to get. And now for some review. Now that you've learned everything there is to know about Pinyin, let's see if you can actually use what you've learned. Can you try reading this dialogue? Wow, good job. You just read your first Chinese dialogue without even reading the actual characters. You did it all with Pinyin. Now I'm going to read it aloud, and you can read along with me. 你好，我是学生。你好，我是老师。谢谢，不用谢。So you probably noticed that this dialogue contained change of tone rules, and it contained all the 5 tones together. Let me tell you what it means. It literally means, hello, I'm a student. Hello, I'm a teacher. Thank you. You're welcome. How do you feel about reading your first Chinese dialogue ever? Well, you know what? Here's another practice. See if you can read this sentence. It looks a little bit like a tongue twister, doesn't it? Here, how about you try reading along with me? Mama, ma, mama. Mama, ma, mama. What does this all mean? It's actually a question that means, does mom yell at the horse? So, mama is mom. And you can see that it's first tone followed by neutral tone. So we don't say mama, we say mama. The second one, because it's neutral, is kind of a softer, unstressed. Ma means to yell at. Ma, we should already know by now, means horse. And the ma is an interrogative particle, meaning it turns the entire sentence into a question. So, mama, ma, mama, basically means, does mom yell at the horse? And finally, here is a massive tongue twister for you to try. If you can read through all of this, props to you, and you have no problem reading Pinyin. So why don't you first read along with me and then practice on your own later when you have time. Are you ready? Let's begin. 4是4，10是10，14是14，40是40。别把40说喜喜，别把14说喜喜。要想说好4和10，全靠舌头和牙齿。要想说对4，舌头碰牙齿。要想说对10，舌头别伸直。认真学，常练习。14、40、44。Wow, were you able to follow along? Basically, this is just a kid's tongue twister about the difference between 40, 4, and 14. Because it turns out these 3 numbers in Chinese actually sounds very, very similar. So when you have a chance, listen to my reading just now and try to practice along. This is really good, especially for practicing your retroflex initials. And that is all we have, my friends. Congratulations on finishing the Pinyin in a Week course. I hope you had a fantastic time learning with me. Be sure to review this lesson and all of the lessons for that matter if there are any points that you don't understand. And also, you can do the practice problems at the bottom of this webpage for extra practice. Good luck to you and happy studying.